There's no doubt that this is not a typical song in the ABBA repertoire, given its topic based on a precise celebration from the calendar, and because of its aim to stick to a certain point of time. Towards the end of its lyrics, Agnetha wonders about what we will find in the end of '89. The album which featured this song was Super Trooper, released in 1980. It was so unnecessary, Björn says, but it shows that our perspective was about 6 months into the future. That's how long the songs were supposed to last. Nevertheless, this reflection that shows how far Björn regarded pop music as something transitory and how he never even dreamed that Happy New Year would be listened after 1989 has gained a new dimension nowadays. When the 80s turned into the 90s, the socialist bloc didn't exist anymore. The Berlin Wall had crumbled, and the planet merged in a single worldwide culture due to a phenomenon which was previously unknown in history of humanity: globalization. We had a few years that felt like some kind of breathing space, reflects Björn, but now there are all kinds of conflicts again, climate issues and so on, and antagonism between other parts of the world. Happy New Year featured lyrics which mixed anguish and hope. The typical anguish of an era in which the Cold War and the nuclear weapons menace kept people scared, and the hope of a humankind that moved forward, as Björn continues, no matter what, against all odds, we soldier on. And deep inside, I think we'll get through the current situation. I don't think that mankind has had its time on Earth. It is true that in many other songs, it is impossible to tell some instruments from others due to the infinite number of overdubs. Benny used to play in his keyboards the same melody lines as those which other instruments played, and sometimes imitating those instruments' timbre. In the Super Trooper album, it is sometimes impossible to distinguish the electric guitars from the Yamaha GX1. Happy New Year is an example. Jan Schaffer can't remember having played in this song in particular. In spite he did. The song is led by soft drums and warm bass. It finds its support on the guitars, mostly acoustic, and the Benny's piano and synthesizer, which imitates a string orchestra in the verses and a horns orchestra in the chorus, where we found a beautiful arrangement of imitation of flutes that reminisces those in Another Town, Another Train. The most astonishing feature in this song is Agnetha's vocal development. She delivers a warm performance without losing her sharpness when she reaches, solidly, the higher notes. Surely, she must have had her time to prepare her voice. Her abrupt falsetto ups and downs are the best of her performance, especially in lines like, "And the morning seems so grey." No doubt, this is the song from the Super Trooper album that extracts some more variety from her voice, not to forget the 2 octaves through which he sings. Frida's voice, besides, brings up some hope from her singing partner's doubts in the sound of a mild tone. She does her part in the verses not until the first chorus had passed, filling with delicacy some empty vocal spaces with hums or repetitions of words that are a sounding equivalent to the sweets on the Christmas dinner. And when the 2 voices together blast out in lines such as "He's an ashtray" or "Down the line," their power and effervescence pulls up like the foamy flow from a newly opened bottle of champagne. Happy New Year, a song which Björn dared to classify in an interview of its time as his closer approach to write something political, was born as an idea to compose a musical about New Year. He traveled to Barbados with Benny, where the keyboard player and Frida had been in 1978 as guests in Paul and Linda McCartney's house as well, to write new material. In their trip to their writing vacations in Barbados, they went with a vague idea for this kind of musical. "We thought it would be a good framework remembered Benny. A few people in a room, looking back on what has been, thinking about the future, that sort of thing. In Barbados, they happened to meet the British comedian John Cleese. They had dinner with him and proposed him to write the story, but it seemed that Cleese wasn't too keen in the project. It was abandoned a little later. The musical, future and adult topic would have to wait 4 more years. But at least Benny and Bjorn had written a song for the project, which wore a funny working title, Daddy, Don't Get Drunk on Christmas Day. It would be re-recorded by ABBA and would end up being the opening track for the B-side of the Super Trooper LP. Main differences with the Spanish version. Frida's voice is more prominent, especially in the song's title. The synthesizer arrangements are more noticeable. It doesn't leave an empty space in the musical landscape. The chords from the keyboards are more sustained and audible, sometimes overshadowing the other instruments, among them, sadly, the flute that embellishes the chorus as well. These sustained chords highlight their presence, for example, in the very ending. The imitation of a string orchestra that closes the song adds an extra chord which is not included in the original English version.